Hello, everyone. This is Thersites the Historian. I am here with Sean Chick. You may know him better from the Civil War videos, but today we're not here to discuss the American Civil War. We're here to discuss another great American tragedy, however, the current state of the left in America following Bernie Sanders' defeat in the 2020 Democratic primary. We'll just be having sort of a general free-flowing conversation on whatever happens to come up. And, we'll get Sean's thoughts on this, go back and forth, see what happens. So, Sean, what do you got for us?
Well, I think one thing to really get into right now that I'm really curious about, and you're seeing a lot of videos on it on YouTube and else just in discussion groups, is why did Sanders lose this time, and why was the performance more disappointing?
Right.
So, what's some of the stuff you've heard, Derek?
Well, I have seen some videos where people have basically tried to say he ran a terrible campaign, but I think that's almost become a trope at this point where if you're a progressive, there is a narrative that you are incompetent at the basics of politics, and if you're an establishment person, you're running a brilliant campaign.
Mm.
Because if you think about it, the person who won the primary might have actually run the worst campaign just from an X's and O's standpoint if you're familiar with political science enough to know how campaigns should be run. What exactly did Biden do right? No, let me rephrase that. What did Biden do?
Well, he did the most important thing. He won South Carolina, which is, they crowned Hillary and they crowned Barack. So apparently, all that matters is win South Carolina.
Well, I was going to say he did the most important thing. He survived, but because he didn't die. But yeah, I think one lesson is that default support is pretty goddamn strong.
Yeah, Biden had the name recognition. He also benefited that nobody really went after him hard in the last month or two. They beat up him on hard early on. Although I got to be honest, I thought the Kamala Harris attack was overplayed because it was about busing. To which I'm like, yeah, that's a policy that's never been popular. It's popular with the kind of people who are at CNN who never have to worry about busing because their kids go to private schools. But for most people like me, I was like, so Biden was against something that's not very popular with people. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, so I never really thought Harris's attack was really that effective or vicious or anything.
Yes, true.
Uh,
Uh,
but
not the whole thing too. I remember at the time, Harris had her chance to break out at that point, and she didn't. She did do a little bit of damage to Biden, but it proved to be pretty fleeting.
I think she damaged him less than I think what she helped herself more than she hurt him because she looked effective in her attack. Like the prosecutor that everybody was expecting her to be, and then yeah, she faded after that. But I think Biden played a great campaign actually because he knew it was all about South Carolina.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
James Carville right after Biden won South Carolina was like, "Call it off. It's over. We got our nominee. Our party's ready to heal and get together. Let's call this thing off."
Yeah, James Carville was right. I mean, it's just, I mean,
Uh, the only
I mean,
thing,
sorry.
the only thing
It's
James Carville has been right is if he's ever said the sky is blue. Uh,
I'm not going to hate on James Carville too much. But I get your drift. It does become tiresome sometimes to see a person who's wrong about a bunch of stuff. But really, when it comes to South Carolina, that's what it's all about. And how did? Because I had people, being like, oh, Bernie's support amongst black people is better than before. But I was like, younger black people who don't vote as much.
yeah,
You know,
basically black people under about 40. That being said, before we move on from James Carville, I think that a lot of people forget about one of the more embarrassing parts of his career. And one of the reasons we haven't seen him around in the last 10 years is not because he's supposedly retired, as he'll tell you. The reason is because in 2008, he was on Hillary's team and he was largely architect of the racist attacks on Obama. So Obama wanted nothing to do with him, so he had to go into hiding for 8 years.
uh,
And He also then tried to get back in with Obama by publishing a book where he photoshopped himself next to Obama with his arm around him, claiming that Obama had won a generational victory and that we wouldn't see another Republican president for 30 years.
Yeah, that's some dumb stuff, man.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right. So let's say Obama pulls an FDR and fundamentally changes everything. You would still get some Republican presidents. They would just be well to the left of, say, Bush. But the idea that you're going to have consecutive Democratic terms for 30 years is absolute insanity. That will never happen unless there's like some sort of coup.
Besides that, the other thing is too is that I I think that idea of like there being like a paradigm, a political paradigm, and that even people of the opposing paradigm, like how like Eisenhower was a liberal Republican, right? And Bill Clinton's a conservative Democrat. That's because Bill Clinton's in Reagan's shadow and Eisenhower's in Frank FDR's shadow. I sometimes think that might be over. And
Yeah.
a lot of that has to do with the nature of the way America is right now. So when that was happening, America was a majority white Protestant nation that was economically, of course there are poor people, there always are, but I mean, economically, not super unequal. You now live in a more diverse culture, and more importantly, you're economically unequal, you know? And that's not set up for like paradigm shifts. That's set up for entrenched political fighting and interest groups. You know, I mean that's why that's one of the reasons economics is so important to me is because historically, if you have a very diverse country with income inequality, that's a recipe for social strife, violence, and even civil war. You know, I mean that's
Yeah.
civil wars and revolutions are mostly what I read about and study, But anyway, well, revolutions not really, well, that's a different story. Anyway, so yeah, I think that whole like thing, like the next Republican will be to the left of Bush. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to happen, man. I think it's more like you're going to get more like extreme versions of each party winning as the extreme areas have more clout, especially as the liberal center continues to decay. You know?
Yeah. Also, I feel like it's a dynamic with both parties, more with the Republicans and with the Democrats, but definitely with both. Where no
Yeah.
matter who gets the nomination, the majority of the people will then coalesce around that person and parrot whatever they're saying. Because I remember in the Republican primary 2016, Trump won, but he didn't win overwhelmingly. I mean, it wasn't like he won 90% of the vote or whatever. But then within, 10 minutes of him winning the nomination, he had almost 100% support from the party, with the exception of 5 never Trumpers on cable TV.
I
And
think
then
the
they all
support you're
pretended
talking.
they were with him the whole time.
I think that support you're talking about is a bit overplayed. I think your average Republican apparatus had given up on Trump in 2016, thought he was dead meat. And I mean, there were a variety. There were a large number of people who Republicans didn't vote for Trump. In fact, what the Trump campaign seems to think right now is that the people who voted for Gary Johnson are going to vote Trump this time. This is what they're thinking. I'm not saying they're accurate, but that Gary Johnson mostly got never Trump Republicans
Yeah,
because no way in hell they were going to vote for Hillary or Jill Stein.
right.
I mean, Gary Johnson, what is that like the best showing the Libertarian Party's ever had?
One of.
Yeah,
Maybe
definitely.
Ron Paul, because I think Ron Paul's run on their ticket before, but maybe Gary Johnson, actually. I think you're right, now I think about it.
I'm just saying that's their thoughts on 2020 there, Um, yeah, I've really come around to think that the degree to which you think the party is disciplined is if you're not in that party. Because Republicans I talk to think Democrats are a disciplined lockstep party. And I'm always like, I always want to be like, what the hell are you smoking, man? But we kind of view Republicans the same way. And while I do think Republicans have better party discipline overall, I think a lot of Republicans didn't think Trump was going to win. Then he did and said, well, that's where the power is, So, get on board.
Yeah, I remember. Sometimes I have a few troll accounts online. Won't say the name, but one time I went on a troll account to the Trump forum on Reddit, and I did this post where I tried to compare Bush and Trump, and I talked about their quote unquote achievements, and I suggested that maybe Bush was a little better. So I just took like a weird neocon stand where I tried to reconcile that with Trump, and the triggering that I got was pretty amazing. Because there were people who were flipping the fuck out, because a lot of the other threads are about how liberals are all snowflakes, and then there
Oh
were
yeah.
conservatives on there just begging for moderators in the comments and basically like just freaking the fuck out. Anyway, I get the impression by reading all those threads as a whole that a lot of the Trump people are now adamantly refusing to acknowledge that they weren't always on board with Trumpian views. They're refusing to acknowledge that they pretty much voted en masse for Bush back in 2000 2004. At least those of them who were old enough at the time. It's just this level of ability to sort of restructure their own personal history that I find fascinating.
Yeah, I could see that too. I do think that people's priorities, some of their thoughts have changed since then. But I do also think, I think Ann Coulter said this best about Trump. It wasn't rocket science. If you look at it, he just looked at what Republican voters wanted most, and he just said, I'll go with that." So you have a Republican guy up there like who might be like, let's privatize Social Security, and Trump's like, no. Or one's like, oh, we should have amnesty or like limited amnesty, and Trump's like, no. And why? That's because majority of Republicans didn't want it. So I
Yeah.
honestly I think that's why he has this base that is so loyal, is because he does appeal to popular opinions in the Republican Party.
Yeah, he actually knows how to read a poll. And
Yeah, it's shocking, ain't it?
no,
I mean, it's
it's
not
amazing to me.
science.
Because I know a lot of people when they at least there are some relatives I have who are very much into Trump, and they always talk about they love that he's not a politician, but I always tell them this was his natural calling. He's clearly better at this than running a business, no question. He
Except
ran a
maybe real
yeah.
estate.
I mean, he literally ran a casino out of business. Business was not his calling in life. If you run a casino out of business, you are incredibly incompetent at business. Um,
Yeah. The only business that he had seemed to have any considerable success at that I've read about is like New York real estate, specifically 80s and 90s.
which
But
he could just follow the blueprint his dad laid down for that. And the other thing he figured out how to do is put his name on stuff because he was well known, and then other people would run the business and they would license his name. Those were his
yeah,
two successes in life.
you mean good at promotion, huh? Well, I
Oh
mean, you
yeah,
got to,
which is
you know.
basically politics. I mean,
Yeah, good point there, man. Good point there. But no, getting back to why Sanders lost, because I mean I've heard lots of things. Like for instance, his rural vote support was much less this time.
yeah,
Um, I don't know if the outreach was bad. One theory I've heard is that some of the things Sanders would say that would appeal to these people wasn't there anymore. Like he had gone from being not hardcore on gun control to being more hardcore about it. Uh, that Sanders is not a pro-immigration guy in the sense of what's popular in the Democratic Party. You know,
yeah,
what do you say? Like open borders is a Koch brothers dream, a scheme, if you will.
right.
I'm not saying Sanders was like against immigrants or something ridiculous like that. I'm just saying that for some of these people who backed Sanders in 2016, there's some evidence that probably the Democratic Party's extreme views on immigration, at least their extreme views on making it very loose, would be a big turnoff to them. He did make inroads with Hispanics, though, considerable inroads, you know, but that wasn't enough to offset South Carolina.
Yeah. So I feel like he actually ran a pretty solid campaign this time, and I think he improved on message discipline. The problem was, as you're pointing out, in rural areas, he lost support. One, because it wasn't a binary race between him and Hillary Clinton, who's extremely unpopular across all of rural America. So I
And
mean,
that plays a big part, man.
in
I mean,
2016, it wasn't that Bernie was out there really winning votes; it's that Hillary was actively losing them, at least in those rural areas. In 2020, like you said, he moved left on guns because he kept getting attacked in those debates, And there were people pretending that his D minus to high F rating from the NRA meant that he was fucking Annie Oakley, and he had to really pivot on that issue to try to outflank these
I
other
think
people.
I think he had to do some pivoting because he had been on record saying, I mean, this at least is rhetoric. I mean, I'm not talking necessarily voting policy, but he'd say that, hey, the gun debate, what makes it complicated is it's an urban versus rural debate. You
Yeah,
know?
and the whole thing too is because they kept bringing up that vote where he didn't want to hold gun manufacturers liable for gun deaths, and if you think about it, the argument that they're trying to advance doesn't make sense. Um, Guns are legal; people buy them. What they do with them could be legal or illegal, but just having a gun in itself is not illegal. How do you hold someone accountable legally and sue them because their product, which was purchased legally, was used in an illegal action? It doesn't make sense on the face of it. I mean, like the mic I'm using right now is heavy. You could use it as a bludgeon to kill someone. Are you gonna go sue Samsung over that? That wouldn't make sense.
The gun thing has always been a bit goofy for me. Like the I mean, like this may sound like cheap because we were like, oh, you just sound like a centrist, but honestly, the extremists on both sides of that debate, I mean, they just say some of the dumbest shit. You know?
Yeah, that's one debate. That's part of the reason I never talk about the issue of guns is because I find the arguments on both sides of that debate to be incredibly idiotic, just headache-inducing stupidity.
I mean, I'll tell you the one that gets me though. At least on the left wing one, right? Is that if you get somebody who's like a Marxist or they talk about revolution, but they're for gun control. I'm like, okay, so how do you win a revolution? I
Yeah,
mean, seriously. I mean, if you guys are serious about revolution, arm yourselves. Think about this, man. Lenin and Trotsky really studied the Paris Commune because they believed the Paris Commune had failed. They want to see its failure, of course. And Trotsky, in particular, came to the conclusion the Paris Commune had failed because of a lack of military shrewdness and preparedness. So Trotsky studied military history. They understood that if Marx himself has understood the same thing. If you're going to be a revolutionary, win a revolution, you're going to be shooting people. You are going to be involved in violence, political violence. And so I've always kind of saw that the people who supported gun control in the Democratic Party were really those who were like, the system's fine, just needs some tweaks. But if they were ever like a Marxist revolutionary and they supported gun control, I was always like, you are an idiot. You need to be armed to the teeth, my friend.
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
anybody who's really serious about revolution, I mean, has to be armed. The other, the other side of that though is, I mean, because like I said, I know people who are into Trump, and most of the people I know who are into Trump also have their own personal arsenals. And most of them are like my parents' age, so they're in their 50s at this point, and they honestly believe that if the government came for them, that they would need all of those guns to help fight the government, and they could do it by themselves. I mean, I won't say who this person is, but he described in detail how if the government came after him, he would run around from tree to tree and have all his weapons planted out and fight off an army by himself. This guy's like 55 years old.
Oh
And
yeah.
and the thing is, I mean, just
Brilliant.
biologically, there's a reason why there are very few professional fighters who are about the age of 35. Your reflex is dull, and in any kind of fight, whether it's a gunfight or a fist fight in an octagon, your reflex is dull, and whoever has the faster reflexes will probably win. And especially if, say, you're fighting 19-year-old U.S. Army Rangers or whatever this fantasy scenario is, it's utter in idiocy to think that you can run around the woods as a middle-aged man and fight off a goddamn army just because you bought fancy sights for your guns.
Oh yeah, and not to mention the training and all the rest.
Yeah,
But
training,
also,
freshness, numbers, logistics, surprise. None of that stuff matters. It's all about having the latest and greatest sights and the specialized clips. As long as you got that, you can take some fat fuck and send him out there and he can take out an army.
the gun debate just kind of flares up whenever there's these horrible shootings, and then people talk about it and it gets promptly forgotten. And I gotta be blunt too, man. On our laundry list of things wrong with America, guns don't even make the top 10. I'm not even sure they make the top 20.
No, and the other thing too that a lot of people don't seem to understand, especially gun control people is that even if we ban the sale of all new guns right now, one of the few things that we still make here in America and that are actually made really well are guns. Somebody
Yeah,
could put a gun under their bed, somebody could find it in 100 years, pull it out, and go kill some people, and it would fire just fine.
yeah. No, so Sanders lost some of that rural support, of course. I think the Hillary thing should be mentioned. I will say, what do you think of the argument Jimmy Dore has that that Sanders went too soft on Biden and just didn't, and arguably on Hillary as well, just didn't sink his teeth in, and
Um,
that therefore a man who's obviously senile is now going to run against Trump.
so it's a tough one because I mean I have noticed that most people in the Democratic base are very, very soft and do not like personal attacks. Because every time somebody went negative in the debates, that's when they died. Julian Castro, people talked about how he attacked people, but it always made him look like an ass. So people in the Democratic Party do not respond well to negativity by and large, at least in the base. But that being said, with Biden, he does have some vulnerabilities which should have excluded him from being viable. So it was a very difficult. It was a catch 22. You have to attack him, yes, but at the same time, if you do attack him, it lowers your favorables massively. So I guess Bernie had to wait until it was the one-on-one duel, which was only really a few-week period. Actually, wait, no, it was really only one day because it happened right before Super Tuesday. Bernie didn't really have a chance to go negative, except between Super Tuesday and then the second Super Tuesday. That was his 1 week window, because otherwise people might flock to some other candidate. It
Well, I don't know if the negativity thing's necessarily accurate, though. I mean, Gabbard gave Harris one hell of a hit.
But how much did that help Gabbard?
Um, I mean, she's kind of just stayed steady where she was, you know. I guess your point would be that those attacks. Harris's attack helped her, you know, her attack on Biden. Uh, Klobuchar. I mean, apparently Elizabeth Warren can't survive Amy Klobuchar, you know.
Yeah,
Um, so I don't know, man. I'm not so I'm not really sure that negativity doesn't work with Democrats. I think it's just different, you know.
yeah. It's I don't. I feel like the negativity that most of them try is very passive aggressive, but I feel like you can do damage without helping yourself. And with Bernie, he both needed to build a positive case for himself and also tear down Biden. It's also possible maybe he thought that because Biden was slowly sliding over time, that if he replaced Biden with somebody more, with it, that it might prove to be a fatal error as strategy. I don't know. But also, I guess we have to keep in mind, too, that a lot of the way candidates run their strategies is based on the peculiarities of their personality. And with Bernie, two things come to mind. One is that he's not somebody who enjoys personal attacks at all. He's not
No, no,
comfortable with
he's
it.
not. He's
Two,
not.
the other thing is Bernie knows that because he's not a cuddly, feely kind of guy, that if it comes down to a likability contest, he might not come out ahead.
Yeah, he could against somebody like Hillary with her high disapproval rating, if you will. But yeah, like some other ones, definitely. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. He didn't really have that much time either. Still, it's very disappointing, and really, this is what happened. I mean, this is the kind of shock I'm seeing. So Sanders wins Nevada. You got places like the Intercept that are like, oh my God, the coalition Sanders is building. Even 538, which has been pretty hard on Sanders until then, was like, hey, this guy looks like he's going to have it, right? And I'm going like, pinch me, like this is exactly what I wanted to see. This is going to end any minute now, right? I mean, am I dreaming? And yes, indeed, I was dreaming. Sanders went from everybody thinking that he's got it to losing it in less than a week. I've rarely seen a campaign collapse so fast. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah. And of course, what one person at National Review said was, if anything, this race proved is that the DNC, unlike the RNC, actually is a powerful organization that can get shit done.
no doubt.
that the Democratic establishment, to be more accurate to what they were saying, the Democratic establishment is strong.
I guess
Okay.
one of the other things they have going for them that the Republicans didn't have is they have a living ex-president who is respected by the party, including the voters of the party, because Obama was the architect of Biden's victory.
No, no, two presidents. You also have Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I guess three technically Jimmy Carter, but he usually stays out of stuff, and he's 500 years old now, so
Yeah, he's not as involved. And also, I mean, like he never played the kind of role that Obama's playing right now. He never could. I mean, by the time he left office, a lot of Democrats had voted against him. And
true.
people didn't start having positive. I didn't start hearing, as growing up at least, I didn't start hearing positive stuff about Jimmy Carter.
Oh, you're cutting
What
out.
is that?
Oh,
What's that?
oh, you
Oh,
just cut out for a second. It's fine.
oh, okay. Yeah, I sound like cardboard was moving around. But anyway, no, Jimmy Carter. I mean, people didn't really have. I didn't start hearing people talking very positively about Jimmy Carter until maybe the mid '90s. Really, Um, so no, I mean, you've got Obama, Clinton to a lesser degree, Republicans. I mean, not Bush, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, Bush is like really. In fact, if anything, Bush looks happier now because he's not involved.
And if anything, Bush is very much popular among the Twitter crowd, which likes to compare anyone who clearly probably doesn't like Trump and make them a hero. Um,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so if anything, Bush is a hero to sort of the neoliberal enabler types who just are rah rah Team Blue, Orange Man bad.
Yeah, yeah. Reflexively, um, there's like so I don't know. The virus happened, of course, that people can't gather. The campaign's over essentially. I mean, unless like Biden shows up on one of his his little like things where he's talking from a basement or something. Only this time he's got his underwear in his hair and he's jacking it. Then
Yeah,
maybe it's over. Okay. I don't see that happening. And even if it did, it wouldn't be Sanders. I
no.
saw your VP picks video. I thought it was one of your best political ones because you really went down like what they would be looking for. I know I've been hearing rumors lately about Hillary Clinton as a possibility, and that wasn't in there. And what do you think of that?
Well, the reason I excluded it is because Hillary's name gets brought up far more than is merited. And unless there was a deal struck between them, basically where Biden would step down almost immediately, I don't think Hillary's ego would allow her to serve as vice president, especially after she ran on it was time for a woman president. I don't think she would be willing to work for someone who's been accused of rape, one, but also
Anyway, but she's married to a guy who's
all
been
she
accused
is.
of
That's true.
rapes.
Um,
I mean,
but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just my gut feeling is that she probably isn't down for this, and also she has been she spent the last 4 years just going on an outright bitterness tour, attacking the people who she had trouble getting their votes last time. And if she were to be on the ticket, that would guarantee that the number of Bernie people who didn't vote for Biden would skyrocket, because there are a number of people on the fence about that right now, and putting her on the ticket would ensure that they don't support Biden. Because it would
um,
be like it'd be a double fuck you. I mean, it would be shitting down the mouths, shitting down the throats of the people who hate the neoliberal establishment.
well, to be fair though, I mean, and I know I'm talking about Hillary as opposed to Biden, but Debbie Wasserman Schultz was not penalized for what happened with the 2016 campaign. In fact, she had a position on Hillary's campaign, and she chose Tim Kaine as her running mate, which is a person to the right of her.
Yeah,
So I look at that and I think the stuff you said they really don't care about in their world. Hillary's not only popular. I mean, Hillary's almost like a martyr. And trust me, dude. Like, I mean, I know there's fans for everybody, right? But I do know some hardcore Hillary fans, like genuine. They like Hillary Clinton, and if anything, I think right now her reputation has never been higher.
I mean, among a certain crowd, yes.
Yes, yes. Well, I want to
Oh
emphasize
man,
that. I don't
yeah,
mean
no, and I guess
I
you're
don't
right.
mean
I mean, a lot of the people who are responsible for fucking up and running easily the most incompetent political campaign in recent memory, the 2016 election. A lot of them have entrenched themselves further. I mean, of course, they manufactured the entire Russia scandal to try to disguise their own stupidity. Um, yeah, a lot of them are still around. I guess it's not impossible that Hillary gets the nod. That being said, um, I am skeptical anytime I hear her name being brought up because I feel like she's sort of like I remember there was one of the founding fathers who worried that ex-presidents may wander around like discontented ghosts. I forget who said it. Um, but I feel like Hillary is basically that, except she was never actually president. And she's haunting everyone. If you look at any of the media on the right, especially like the hardcore Trump support, Hillary is still being talked about as if she's relevant in some way, as if she holds power. If you look at people in the middle, a lot of them, at least the centrist Democrats, I mean, they fucking love Hillary. People on the left still hate her. I mean, we try not to talk about her, but she comes up. I feel like Hillary's kind of like one of those names which just gets circulated over and over and over, but it's not actually going to happen. At least that's my gut feeling. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know.
that's how I felt in 2014 to 15. I was like, wait, it's going to be Hillary. Wait, nobody's running against her. Oh my god, I thought you were dead already.
Yeah, it's I hate to say it. Actually, I don't hate to say it. One of the real tragedies of the COVID-19 outbreak is that no one who is a pernicious influence in our politics has died from it. Look, I mean, can you name anybody terrible who's died? I can't.
Yeah,
Can't think of
no,
a single person.
I mean, hey, I think Hillary's got a decent shot. I think the only thing that might prevent her is that I don't think her people and Biden's people are really like that friendly.
Yeah, I
You know what I'm
guess they
saying?
are rivals. And there were rumors that Biden would run in 2016, but then I think mostly it was his son's death that prevented him from running. And I think the main reason he was being pressured to run is to suck oxygen out of the room for a Bernie challenge.
Um, I think he wanted to make a real run in 2016, and from what I've read, Obama told him not to. The people who told him to were his people, like his staff and inner circle. They want him to run, and Obama was like, "No, this is Hillary's deal."
Yeah,
Uh,
it was my understanding at the time, back in 2008, actually, that the deal that they struck is that it would be a my turn, your turn between Obama and Hillary based on the outcome of the 2008 primary. But then I
yeah.
sort of laughed at that at the time, like, there's no way that they can possibly enforce that. Well, I guess I was wrong.
Well, you also got to consider. I mean, you say Hillary has no influence. She has tons of influence.
Well,
Got
she's
a
got
Clinton.
influence, but I mean, in terms of her being viable,
Oh, she's
and really having
viable,
any
man.
kind of juice, I
Got juice.
I don't know about that.
Look.
I feel like she's overestimated.
Hey, I agree with you on that, man. Like people were like talking about how her resume, and I was like, her resume's paper thin. I mean, it's a lot of positions, but not a lot of accomplishments in those positions.
Yeah, much like a lot of people who tend to be overrated. Kamala Harris, for instance, is very similar, even if less accomplished.
Right. I'm just saying that. I mean, we don't know yet, but like the possibility that Biden would pick her, I put as easily in this top 3 or 4. Just the amount of influence she has, the clout that she has, and in her mind, she's got to be like, hey, I mean, this guy's obviously senile and losing it. I mean, I served as VP for a year or two, and the next thing you know, I'm the first female president.
Yeah, no. If Hillary does get on the ticket, then at that point, I have speculated in the past. I don't know if I've ever done it on video, but I think the ideal sort of Carville generational rule kind of scenario plays out like this: Biden serves a little tiny bit over 2 years, so that way technically whoever takes over for him, it doesn't count against their 2 term limit to serve out the remaining half of his presidency, so long as it technically is less than 50.1% of his presidency. And then that person runs for election twice. So
Whoa.
in that case, if it's Hillary, then that strategy is guaranteed to at least the Democrats will attempt it.
I mean, could be, but I mean, I will say, I'm not saying Hillary's getting the thing. Okay, I'm just saying that not out of the realm of possibility, sort of thing they might be thinking of. Um, so the getting back to some stuff about the left in general, uh, pretty demoralized right now. I mean, Sanders. I don't want to say got his clock cleaned, but I mean, when he lost bad. It
Yeah,
was,
and I
it,
mean, there's some evidence that things were not on the up and up on a number of results. But that being said, I don't want to get into that too
yeah,
much.
one, I don't know enough about it, and two, I don't think this one was rigged in like the illegal sense. Instead of more like the once they knew Biden could stop Sanders, they all got out of the way.
Well, that being said, the other thing to remember is I know there are people who talk about bringing lawsuits against the DNC over this. Technically speaking, the Democratic Party is a private corporation and they are not required to adhere to normal election laws, which is why they don't.
But yeah, yeah.
Um, so there really is not a case to bring against them, unfortunately. They're not bound by the same rules that bind general elections. So if they want to just rig it, or even if they want to cancel it and say we're picking so and so now, the end. Technically, they do have that right, which is something which needs to be reformed badly, but that is how things stand right now.
Yeah, I don't look for that one to be reformed. Parties try to maintain what power they do have. Uh, besides which, I mean, the Democrats are all banking on you hate Trump so much you're going to vote for us anyway.
Yeah, and I've talked to people because, I mean, my position is I don't think Biden is worth a vote. I was talking with my sisters, and both of them think it is worth a vote. Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be
but
a lot of points of view on that one. One is keep in mind too that you know, I mean, a lot of our problems with Biden are economic. Social issue wise, he's not going to do anything, but that's because Democrats are united on social issues and divided on economics.
yeah, I've thought about it more since I made the video. I think I could have made the case stronger in terms of reasons to vote against Biden or vote for third party rather than Biden. Two more things came to mind for me. One, if you recall back to the grand bargain of Obama, which I think is the thing which really showed where his real loyalties lie. I actually think under a Biden administration, especially given his track record in the Senate, that we'd be more likely to see cuts to Social Security and Medicare than we would be under Trump, or at least as likely. We would not be defending key institutions with Biden. There's no way. Secondly, if you really think of what the Democratic Party did by foisting someone who's clearly unable to hold the office, Biden, um, we're talking about what amounts to a hostage negotiation and extortion. Because the extortion is this: they're saying if you don't vote for this clearly incapable individual, people will suffer, and it will be your fault. I say, no, the fault lies with the people who put Biden up for this. The fault lies with the party. That is where the responsibility to choose a candidate who is capable lies, not with random voters in November. The elite need to be held accountable, not random citizens.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you on that one. I don't know. That part's troubling me is that we're already seeing the vote shame as a tactic, both like macro level and just in personal relations. And I'll be honest, man, I am after Sanders dropped out, I said that this is the first time I've spoken about politics since then, and I don't talk to friends about it right now because some of them are going to be blue no matter who. A lot of them are going to be that way, and I just don't see the point in getting
Yeah,
into those kind of arguments.
I mean, I guess to
Uh,
be fair, though, one thing that we have in common that we don't share with a lot of our friends is neither one of us are dyed in the wool Democrats in the sense of having party loyalty or being born into a Democratic family or whatever.
Yeah, no, definitely, man.
So
It
it's
just
not really like some entrenched part of our identity. And to be clear, I do not hold it against anyone who decides to vote for Biden. I'm not judging you. I'm not going to come wag my finger at you. I won't send you messages online to harass you. I'm just
yes,
telling you what I think. The end.
I don't even hold it against anybody who votes for Trump.
No, I don't
I
either.
mean,
I mean, if your choice is someone like Hillary or Biden, I mean, that's like being asked if you want to have someone come in your living room and take a shit on the floor, piss on the floor. It's not exactly. I mean, it's very much a subjective question which talks about sensibilities, and the real problem is the system itself. Somebody left a comment on a video where somebody was debating another person on whether or not to vote for Biden, and they said that the real issue here is that we're faced with an insane choice. We're talking about whether we should vote for Biden or not. The fact that we're in a position to talk about this, that's the real issue. That shows you how rotten our system is. And the more I think about it, the more I think that having a candidate for president who clearly suffers from dementia, whose record of voting on key issues, the ones that really matter, is almost entirely in line with the other party, that is the perfect symbol of the state of our politics. That's where we're at. Just look at Biden's face with like 85,000 liver spots. That's the health of our political system right there.
yeah, no, it's like I'm gonna put into words, man. It's just like those bumper stickers they have that say like any functioning adult 2020,
Yeah,
and I'm just like, so we're voting green or libertarian, huh?
yeah. I mean, it's like because that was the whole logic. Is a lot of people were like, I'd vote for a can of soup with a D on it if it was opposed to Trump, or any adult who's semi-responsible or cogent. And then one of the narratives about Trump is that he might have dementia, and it's possible that he does have some mild form. I actually don't think he does. I think he's just dumb. But anyway, yeah, somehow we couldn't find that. And we had, what, 27 candidates, I believe? Or was it more? We had more candidates than Napoleon had marshals, and we couldn't find one person without dementia or without a rape accusation. Because those are the two things Democrats like to hammer Trump for.
Yeah, yeah. That the rape accusation one is big insofar as the mental gymnastics involved. And I mean, honestly, what's going to happen is that the accusation is going to be downplayed or ignored. It already pretty much is. Bill Clinton, who has multiple rape accusers, will speak at the convention, and this is going to be a major blow against feminism, much like the Bill Clinton impeachment trial was. I mean, I can remember when feminism, definitely had some legs in the early to mid '90s, and then it just didn't for a little while. One reason was because of that. And I'm not talking about Monica Lewinsky in particular. I'm just talking about Bill Clinton in general.
Yeah.
I'm
And
not talking about Monica. I'm talking. I mean, the guy has multiple rape accusers, and there are lots of people I know who will not accept that or do not take that seriously. And there's I mean, hypocrisy's everywhere, but we've made that such a central platform of being left wing right now. You know,
yeah, that
uh,
that too. Another thing that it brings up the whole downplaying of accusations against Biden and Clinton, and then trumpeting of anything against a Republican. A lot of people on the right do not trust any media with any kind of leftward slant. Period. And the reason I think is encapsulated in the way that people like the New York Times have covered the rape case against Biden. So they only reported it the day after Bernie dropped out, even though the story had been available for weeks because they supposedly had to vet it. I don't think it's a coincidence they waited literally until the day after Bernie dropped out.
they
Uh,
sure as hell didn't vet a lot of stuff with Kavanaugh, but he had an R on his name.
yeah, so and then the other thing too is in the article where they talked about the accusations, they were very cautious about making jumping to conclusions, and they also made sure to mention that Donald Trump had similar accusations against him, which while again, this is one of the problems of media bias. A lot of people just assume that's outright lies. All these things are true. It's just the framing which makes it dishonest, not the facts themselves. Because
Exactly.
yes, Trump has had accusers, obviously, but
He
the
don't
article was
use it.
supposed to be about Biden and the Tara Reade accusations, but the article ended up being half about well, but Trump.
I know humans don't really work this way. I wish they did, but I mean, I I mean, I don't care about the blatant hypocrisy only insofar as the same people who morally grandstand about other things, right? Like
Yeah.
Brett Kavanaugh, right? Now, I have a lot of problems with Brett Kavanaugh, but like the guy had accusations more flimsy than Biden and definitely fewer than Bill Clinton, and they held his feet to the fucking fire. You know, I mean, I looked at Kavanaugh, I was like, what's the problem with Kavanaugh? He may or may not have done something to this one person, but I will tell you one thing he did do for sure. He really likes torture, but you
Yeah.
can't get him on that because it's not a sexy topic for people right now. It's not a topic that people are driven by. It wasn't, there's no hashtag Me Too for torture. So they didn't care about that. And besides which, also, all the Democrats want to torture people too. Most of them, at least.
And the other thing
Uh,
too with the Supreme Court picks, one thing that people need to pay way more attention to is what is this person's stance on money in politics, and their stance on corporate personhood. Those should be the two real criteria for a Supreme Court justice. Because Merrick Garland, the person who has become a darling of the left despite being a corporate centrist, I looked into his record. This guy is 100% pro corporate. He's just socially liberal. And I talked about this with one of my friends he was a really smart guy, very progressive, but also a born Democrat who has party loyalty. So I remember pointing this out to him, and I forced him to agree. And then I see the next day on Facebook, he's posting all these things about how Merrick Garland deserves a seat on the Supreme Court. And that is
I
why I
mean,
left Facebook in 2016, basically, in a
oh yeah,
nutshell.
if all your friends are Democrats, though, I mean, you gotta make them happy on social media. Can't draw their ire. Uh, yeah, look, it's ultimately the way I see it for the Democratic Party. Their problem is, and I'm going to get into the problem of the left too. But if you think about it, our split still goes back to the '60s. The identity left and the economic left split. All attempts to bring them back together have failed since then. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, she gave it her all. She made a try, but it wasn't her moment. It didn't work, right?
Yeah.
So we all know that the donor class doesn't mind socially liberal stuff because it doesn't have influence in very much. They don't really believe in that kind of stuff. They don't believe in social conservatism anyway. It's just pocketbook, you know. And the thing is that the reason the class left. I mean, one of the things the class left also, especially right now, and maybe not as much in the '90s, but really does believe in the social left stuff as well. But they want to emphasize the economics, but that can never work. They will constantly be undermined because the system has been bought and paid for. So, on the one hand, the problem with the left is that they can't get in because they don't have the access to the money and because the party is intent against them. On the other hand, though, more importantly, your Democratic Party, because they're not economically left, they can win elections here and there, but they have a hard time sustaining any kind of momentum. I mean, think about it. If Obama had given a stimulus package for regular Americans during the financial crash, and he had put bankers in jail and held people accountable for the Iraq War and for the financial crash, would the Democrats have lost the House? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And if they did, it wouldn't have been a 60-seat swing or whatever we saw back in 2010.
And I mean, whatever things may be wrong, I'll say this: the conservatives I grew up with, the ones I know, they told me my whole life, and I think they're right. They said, "Look, Democrats, when it comes to economic issues, a lot of times they're just lying to you. They're not serious. It's a party of rich elites as well." And the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, they're right.
Yeah, no, their talking point about limousine liberals ended up being correct.
Yeah, it's there, and we've really seen it on display.
I'm
Now,
really, especially the person I find the most disappointing, especially now that I actually know about his earlier life, is Bill Maher, because he actually used to be pretty fucking cool. I've watched some of his old movies. Have you ever seen The Pizza Man?
no,
All
no.
right, look that up. It's worth watching. It's very lefty, and also it predicted, interestingly enough, that the real power behind Thatcher and Reagan was secretly Trump. So it actually sort of presaged the Trump presidency as early as about
Oh yeah,
1990.
no, you tell me about this. It's on my list of movies to
Yeah,
see.
you need to move that up to Q because that one's
Yeah,
definitely worth it. And that needs to also be added to Danny's list of bad movies whenever he does that again. Because it's sort, I guess it's technically a bad movie, but it's still pretty goddamn entertaining though. Anyway, it's I don't know what I think it was really the Hillary derangement syndrome where he became a hardcore Hillary supporter, and since then he's just completely lost his way. I mean, I've never liked his style of humor because my ex girlfriend back in Kentucky was super into Bill Maher, and she'd always share these clips with me, and I always just found him to be too smarmy. But at least like his points were usually good, even if he was very off putting with them. But now his points are basically all bullshit, at least mostly. Unless he's talking about religion, that's like the one topic he gets right.
he's pretty good on free speech as well. I actually still like Bill Maher. I do find him funny. Do you know who's the one I feel that way about though? Is John Oliver.
Oh yeah, agreed.
Yeah, like God, like I think he's the least funny man on television. I think Anderson Cooper is more of a hoot.
Well, see, the thing is with John Oliver, the tragedy of Jo is that the guy's delivery and his timing, fucking spectacular. The material itself, not as much. And I lost respect for him back in 2016 when he did the Let's Bash third party candidates with smears that are unsubstantiated episode. Because he said that Joel Stein was anti-vaxxer, which is actually not accurate. And I'm not a huge Jill Stein supporter, but the fact is she was never an anti-vaxxer. That is not true. She was a doctor. What she was doing in her statement is she clearly said that anti-vax is not a legit position, but she tried to say it tactfully because guess what? She was running for office. The reason why she was anti-vaxxer in the mind of John Oliver and others is because she didn't say the people who believe that are a bunch of fucking assholes. Because apparently politicians other than Trump say that stuff. It's an unreasonable standard, and her stance against anti-vax was a lot stronger than anyone else. And I got into a yelling match with people one time, people I know who are PhD students who are smart enough to know better, because they're like, no, she's an anti-vaxxer, I saw it on John Oliver. I'm like, no, she's not. Have you read her statement? It's stronger than the one that both Hillary and Obama made in 2008. Why aren't they anti-vaxxers? They're not doctors. So if you're a doctor, you have to say things that alienate people, and you can't run for president. Is that the position you're taking?
I remember that segment. That was around the time I was like, "What's there's something up with this guy?" And honestly, like, I mean, he went so hard into the Russia conspiracy stuff too. I mean,
I didn't see that, but I'm not surprised.
yeah, he got hard into it. I still think Rachel Maddow should be declared fake news for pushing a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, maybe up until about 2015, if you had asked me who's the best person on cable television in terms of news, I would have quickly said that it is Rachel Maddow, hands down, no questions asked.
Oh, I'd already given up on her because I'd noticed the pro Hillary stuff, and I was like, I'm kind of done with this. I mean, I was already veering away from that sort of stuff
Yeah, because
anyway.
I mean, the Hillary thing, I found it. I did find that disturbing, but I thought that it was just like a Hillary derangement, or not really. I guess derangement is when you hate somebody, but a Hillary enchantment, I guess you could say, which I noticed with a lot of people I know personally who are usually generally very reasonable people, but once Hillary came around in 2016, some of them just went crazy. And I remember I saw one person post, "Well, I'm a socialist, therefore I support Hillary," and it was mind-boggling to me. And then the person followed up with something along the lines of, and I don't really understand who else socialists would want to support. And this is when the primary is going on, by the way, not the general.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
it's just, I just, and the other thing that weirds me out is that it seems like everybody else in politics, when they talk to people who supported Bernie, they assume that our reverence for Bernie on a personal level is the same as their reverence for Trump or Hillary or whoever. And I don't know about you, but I've never held Bernie as a godlike figure.
No, they kind of used to. I mean, way back, like 2010 or so, when I was learning about him. Me and Danny, my brother, we jokingly, so you wanted Emperor Bernie the First in charge, you know?
No, I mean I
Uh,
remember when I discovered him because I think you might have actually been the one who introduced him to me. Now I think about it, because that'd have been about the right time frame, certainly. I remember watching his interviews, and while I agreed with most of what he said, I just thought, man, like it's too bad this guy doesn't have charisma because this guy is pretty cool. And then when he announced in 2015, I'm like, well, I know who I'm voting for now. It's too bad he won't make a big dent here because, again, the lack of charisma. I was actually stunned by the fact he made a run at things in 2016.
no, that was actually one of my best political predictions ever. Is I was like, he's going to give Hillary a major run for her money.
Yeah, you were right about that one. I remember we talked about that, and I was hoping that you were right, but I'm like, I don't know, man. So, yeah,
Yeah, no. It's like the thing with Hillary is that, and all that sort of stuff, is that certain, and not just to advance the party, but it's the problem having a two-party system, right? A lot of people I knew who are even backing Biden, they all have serious, a lot of them have serious problems with them. They're just trapped, and we all know this system sucks. This is a terrible political system, made even worse as this country becomes more racially, religiously, ideologically diverse. You know,
yeah,
and you're going to need to have probably eventually something else. Now, of course, historically, parties will subsume groups within them, and certain groups can be ascendant and whatnot. I'm not sure the degree to which the Democratic Party is able to be infiltrated. I've heard AOC has a primary challenger, or not a primary challenger, like a is it a primary challenger?
probably.
Primary, I think a primary challenger, and I mean, person's being funded by lots of large interests. I mean, and I mean, Nancy Pelosi said it best about the squad. She's like, there's like 3 votes between them.
Yeah. There, you know that Nancy Pelosi's primary challenger actually made it into the general. Interestingly enough.
Interesting.
Yeah, because California has the runoff system, so it will be between Nancy Pelosi and someone who's like a Bernie style Democrat. His name's Shahid Buttar. And he seems like a pretty cool guy. Obviously, he's an upgrade from Nancy. But it will be interesting to see how much money Nancy raises because I imagine it's going to be extraordinary.
I mean, what undermines our class arguments, which undermines the class element of the Democratic Party, is we became a part of the professional class. Most of your richest counties in America vote Democrat. You know,
Yeah, and the more I've thought about that, how professionalized Democratic Party has become, uh, I hate to have to say it out loud, but here's the thing. Let's say that Trump and Pence somehow managed to really fuck over women or people of color in some way by, say, repealing Roe versus Wade. I mean, I don't think they'd do that unless Pence takes over. But let's say they do. That would actually help to radicalize the PMC. And it would also actually piss them off. I'm not sure it would be the worst thing in the long term for the country.
the PMC.
Professional managerial class.
Ah, okay. Um, I don't know how this one will play out necessarily, though. I mean, it gets me is that on the one hand, there's a lot of evidence that would show that the PMC, if you will, the Democratic Party, that variety is ascendant. Because of demographics and changes in social values. But at the same time, if I consider Democrats' incompetence and their inabilities with class, means that they stumble and tend to lose power.
Yeah.
So I don't know the extent to which things are going to work out for them in the long term. I believe there's one thing that's been mentioned. Mark Blythe, the economist, has talked about this sometimes, and I've wondered about it for a while, especially when Hillary was up. Hillary was making, when I say conservative arguments, I don't mean like ideologically, but conservative in the sense that she's like, we'll build on what Obama did and we'll make it better, right? So you're saying the system's fine. The Democratic Party becomes seen as the party of the system, and this system is failing and is going to fail. All right. The number of things that have converged, economics with the environment, what all those can tell can have effects on mass migrations, and then you have things like, of course, epidemics as well, and income inequality, the degree to which the rich control things. You have all the racial tensions that are going on as well. If you are tied to that system, if you're seen as a defender of that system and not a reformer of it, you're going to be the group they throw under the bus, because the demographics are destiny people I have a major problem with. I know what they're saying, but I think what they fail to understand is contingency. That major events can happen that do change enough people's minds, that do create a new set of circumstances that the old set cannot deal with.
Yeah.
And it would also assume rigid loyalty, or as I like to say, like, my Irish ancestors all voted for Democrats, and I'm sure in the 1950s they thought the descendants of the Irish immigrants would still vote for Democrats because they had been doing it since the 1850s. And then by the 1980s, that was not true anymore.
Yeah.
So these things can change.
Yeah, because I've always wondered about that. Because I'd read articles where people were talking about how demographic change ensured democratic success going forward, and I always wondered why they were assuming a static universe, because historically that has never been the case. But yet there are
Well,
people who write serious articles who are supposed intellectuals who, I guess, pretend not to understand that.
they're essentially cheerleaders, and a lot of them are, because you're there to make other Democrats feel good about themselves, and then that makes you get more clicks, and more importantly, get approval from other people who also think positively of Democrats, and then you all just kind of sit around and think positive, kind of like with the Iraq War with Bush, right? We're like critics of the war, critics of the tactics and strategy for the first 2 3 years are being excluded. I mean, that's a recipe for failure, you know. Now, the degree to which humans can even deal with diversity of thought or diversity of strategies and advice is debatable. I say that because I find that people want conformity more than anything else. I mean, hell, you're talking about PhD students. Like, these are supposed to be the smartest, right? I'm like, no, no, no. I don't think PhD students are the smartest. I think they're the ones who are able to conform and be disciplined about it. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, intelligent. I'm sorry, smart too, but like intelligence, conformity, and discipline, because they don't tell PhD students to strike it on their own and do something crazy. They tell them to essentially do something safe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Um,
also incredible from what I've heard. Whenever if you ask your advisor for advice when you go on the job market, they'll always tell you to make sure you cut your hair and shave. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I'm not shaving. I mean, I could. I've got a decent jawline or whatever, but I like having a beard because I am into Greek philosophy. And I mean, like I can grow a pretty decent beard. I don't have gaps or any of that bullshit, so that's what I'm gonna do. And I don't give a fuck. You know,
Yeah,
take it, leave
dude.
it, or suck my cock.
Yeah, more power to you, man. Fuck them. But nah, just like those people who are writing those kind of things, they don't think about things are going to be different. Things can change. You guess the big one they don't do though, which is we mentioned kind of the Civil War videos too. A lot of their theories are predicated on the idea that Republicans will remain static, and and this is my one of my biggest beefs with fellow lefties is that some ways they don't know whether or not to take Republicans seriously. On the other hand, they tell me about how evil and devious and horrible they are, but then they also say they're a bunch of morons. And I'm always like, wait, are they evil and devious and capable, or are they morons? And the other end of that too is that what they view is that there's a Republican elite that manipulates a bunch of morons. They don't take right wing or conservative ideas seriously, and they don't understand the flexibility because they immediately think, oh, they're a conservative, they can't be flexible. And I'm like, that's not true. Conservatism can have an amazing degree of flexibility, oftentimes does. If anything, being doctrinaire, being rigid is not a right or a left wing thing, you know? So I think they also get surprised with Republican flexibility when they don't really see it coming that Republicans could change tactics, right? Like one guy said it best, man. This is some brilliant stuff. One of the guys who worked on the Trump 2016 campaign, the internet strategy, said, when I did it for Trump, it was depicted as something evil. When Obama did similar stuff in 2008 and especially 2012, it was called genius.
Yeah.
And that really, really stuck with me. I heard people saying that they're like 2008, like, I mean, I was even saying some stupid shit like this that, oh, like conservatives dominate radio. Well, that's so the past. We dominate the internet. It's like, yeah, like they're not going to figure out how to do internet stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they would permanently stay off the internet. Also, no people under a certain age will ever become Republicans.
Yeah, it's like that view people have of the British and the American Revolution and the French and Indian War that they wore red coats and they were morons and they got shot from guys hiding behind trees. I'm like, no, the British aren't idiots. There's a few battles that happened. Guess what they did? They figured out how to hide behind a tree.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love the static view of the world where it's like people have played too many games where the AI can't adapt, so they assume that's how humans are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so, and yeah, I mean, I understand this too. I know I'm dogging on lefties about this. I mean, I know conservatives think the same thing. They'll be like, Democrats are evil and stupid. I'm like, which is it?
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I
Exactly.
know I know you can be evil and stupid. I get it, but like, what am I supposed to be more afraid of? An evil genius or like a stupid? I don't know, man. It fucking confuses me. And then you realize it all depends on who they're talking about and how they feel at the time. And people don't really like to think about what their enemies are up to. And I'm always like, no, you should really, really consider what your enemies are up to and how they can make appeals. Like I'll just tell you this real quick, man. There are certain conservative intellectuals that I listen to or read, and they are not big fans of capitalism. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've got these guys who have major problems with capitalism and ones who will say that, yes, global warming's coming. It's going to happen. The evidence says so. So there are conservatives who say this, who put this in writing. All right. They're not a big cluster in the party right now. But I got to tell you, they're writing the most original stuff in conservative circles. They're writing the stuff that other people are debating and talking about, not just old, tired National Review talking points. Okay. And if I was like a Democratic strategist or one thinking long term, not just, I'm not getting Biden here, but if I'm thinking like 4, 8, 12 years down the road, I would be very concerned about the rise of a strain of conservative thought that is critical of capitalism because we have grown up in a country where to be conservative is to be pro capitalist. That's what it was for decades. The financial crash got rid of that, undermined that. And there's always been conservatives who were not that happy with capitalism, or at least critical of it. That doesn't mean they're Marxists or something. That doesn't mean they're going to get rid of corporations. But it does mean that on certain economic issues, they sound to the left of guys like Biden and Hillary Clinton. Oh,
Yeah. There's
if
also
that
there's
strain of conservatism ever gains traction, we're in deep shit.
there are a couple of people in conservative media who are espousing views somewhat along those lines. Tucker Carlson, kind of to some extent, and then there's someone else called named Sagar and Jetty, who's on a show called Rising, who very much holds that view, and he's very critical of capitalism to the point where I watched a few videos with him and his co-host, and I didn't realize he was a Republican until about the third or fourth video because his social views are very conservative, but economically he sounds a lot like Bernie at times.
Or you can find this strain of thought in the American conservative. Um, you can find it on what they call frog Twitter. You can find it on YouTube. And once again, these people don't have that major clout yet or anything, but they're gaining traction. I'm seeing it in real time. The thing is with ideas is they work slowly. I mean, they work faster nowadays, but they still overall work slowly compared to other stuff. Um, and even with this current crisis we're in right now, these people are gaining intellectual traction. And I would be very concerned if the Democratic Party really embraced neoliberalism hard and then found itself out left on economics. Because if we think about it, the New Deal coalition, while it did break up, I mean, all coalitions break up, but its success in getting presidents and in controlling Congress is unprecedented in American history, with the possible exception of um, the Jefferson to Monroe period would be the only exception I can think of, and a lot of those with the Federalist Party just disappeared one day, Um, but in the time of competitive parties, that's your most powerful bloc, and the New Deal coalition was socially conservative, fiscally liberal. That is still overall the most popular combination in America, though we're not as socially conservative as then.
Right.
I would be very afraid of something like that emerging. And to be honest, in some ways, you kind of already saw it with Trump. While Trump was definitely no economic lefty, he was economically to the left of most people on that debate stage with him.
Oh yeah, I mean especially Jeb.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Like Jeb, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio. I mean, yeah. So, Trump could get him on trade and he could get him on, whatever benefits we have right now are fine.
yeah, that's why the other reason I was when I was talking with somebody when I was having the whole I basically had a debate with my one sister about Biden. She's like, yeah, he's gonna lose because people like you won't vote for him. Like, I don't know if you've looked at an electoral map, but the reason why Trump won in 2016 is because he ran to the left of Hillary on trade, and there are a lot of states where social issues do not inspire voters. I live in one of them. You'll get the 2018 results in Ohio. Sherrod Brown, who talks about unions, won. Every other Democrat in a statewide race lost. That is not a coincidence. Look at what they ran on. None of them talked about economics. Richard Cordray, the former head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, downplayed his time at that institution protecting people from corporate fuckery and instead focused on how he's a nice guy. And he ran an ad where he just showed himself helping an old lady load her car after she was at the grocery store. That's what he ran on. It literally his slogan was something like Richard Cordray is a nice guy. He didn't talk about how he would help people or his track record of standing up for common people. He actually had a track record he could talk about. He didn't do it. And he lost.
This gets to a big problem, man. Like the moral center of the Democratic Party is not economics. It is identity politics and social issues.
That and I think there's like this general idea that anyone who has any degree of privilege whatsoever should ignore a personal interest and be the perfect exemplar of virtue. It's very much a politics of personal virtue, as if
But yeah,
that is something that is common. I mean,
I,
news.
I
Oh, go ahead.
oh, and I was gonna say, I just think like a lot of this is a kind of left wing attempt to create a new moral order because humans need moral order. I had just happened to grow up in the '90s when there was an anything goes mentality, right? That's in many ways gone. They're trying to forge a new moral order. That's where their moral center lies. I'm not quite so sure about conservatives. I kind of feel like conservatives might be a little more in flux than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know where they go post Trump, even though the party's gotten Trumpier. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel
Uh,
like and maybe it's just my perception of how the Republicans are easily able to adapt to a new nominee. Um, I wonder if whoever wins the primary, if they can switch directions more rapidly than the Democrats, perhaps. Um, so I imagine next time there would be a lot of Trump imitators, and then there might be some more uh, Bush-style Republicans, at least a handful, and maybe if that person gets a plurality, they might actually have a path to victory because of the winner-take-all primary system.
It'll be interesting to see for the Republicans who's going to go in because I do want to say one thing. I'll have to be going soon, but I have noticed that when you have the president in charge, when the party that has the president in there, because the president sucks up so much oxygen, they tend to have very few all stars.
Yeah.
You know, and then the party that's out of power is desperately looking for a leader. So suddenly you'll hear about like random people like Kamala Harris, and Cory Booker. Now I'd heard about them before. I'd seen Street Fight. before Obama even got elected, I'd seen Street Fight, and Harris. I remember hearing about her back when she was in California with some stuff with banking. But those people, you didn't hear much about them in Obama's first term, even second term. But man, once Trump gets in there, suddenly you hear about all these Democratic all stars. It's like they've been hiding under the rock. And
Yeah,
so I because Republicans, I don't know who are the big names of the Republican Party, but I'm pretty damn sure that whenever a Democrat's in the White House, we're going to be like, oh, this is a young gun of the Republican Party or some shit.
yeah. I remember literally when Obama was in office, there was a book published by Paul Ryan, Eric Cantor, and someone else called Young Guns.
Yeah, God, that's terrible, man.
Yeah.
God, Cantor was a nutter. He looked.
No, he was. He sucked profoundly. But also it's funny to me, because I've noticed that political age is a very different subject than age in any other context. I mean, the last time I checked, Kirsten Gillibrand's Twitter she calls herself a young mom, and she's like 52 or 53.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, I mean it's a very politics is a weird world. What was it? Somebody described it one time as a popularity contest for ugly people, or
Yeah,
sport for. Yeah,
Danny called it that. Like celebrity for ugly people.
yeah,
One thing about Christian Gillibrand, though, for real though, like the mom part, she takes that very seriously.
yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, like my one guy I know in DC who said that Christian Gillibrand came up to his home with her kid on Halloween night, and he told me about that. He's like, no, Christian Gillibrand like isn't like get away, kid. I'm busy. Like she's like really into being a mom.
well, that's good. I mean, at least she has some virtue on some level. I mean, that's I guess a positive.
Man. I mean, unless you're like Jeffrey Dahmer, I can find something positive with you.
That's true. I mean, it is hard to find someone who is pure evil. I mean, Hitler was nice to his dogs in those videos, so uh, there's. I mean, that's why one of my favorite villains of all time is Gul Dukat from Deep Space Nine,
Yeah.
and also Kai Wynn. DS9, probably my favorite show, but both of them are complex villains who do have a handful of virtues and talents, and genuinely believe that they're in the right.
Yeah, that's. I think that's always the thing that we they screw up with movie villains. And don't get me wrong, I do like it when a villain knows they're evil and is into it, which kind of goes back to something I was saying earlier about the like people morally grandstand really know it's just political calculation. Like if you take rape seriously, Bill Clinton can't speak at the thing, right? But you lie to yourself and you're a hypocrite. It's rare to have the person who's so honest with themselves they know they're terrible and awful, but you do run into it, you know. But yeah, everybody thinks they're the hero. Everyone thinks that they're the good guy. All of them. I mean, Hitler thought he was saving us from the Jews, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Like so, in his mind, he is the hero.
yeah, that's why one day I hope that a lot of prominent people do those kind of expose biopics of themselves where they present the world from their own perspective, as a Netflix special or whatever. I'd really love to see Dick Cheney's explanation for his own actions. Just I would find it endlessly fascinating, especially if he romanticizes his life and he sees himself as a lady killer or whatever the fuck. That's what I really want to know. Like, does Dick Cheney think that he has the sexual charisma?
Say one thing for him. He did say a particularly dark prophecy that came true. He said that this is the first few months Obama's in office. He says he will do nothing to dismantle the, paraphrasing, he will do nothing to dismantle the security state that me and President Bush built.
Yeah, I guess he nailed that one. It's
Yeah.
also interesting. Another famous Dick Cheney quote is that deficits don't matter, and
Yes.
both
Those are
Bush and
true.
Trump have embraced that wholeheartedly and without reservation.
Like deficits really don't matter. Republicans and Democrats, they don't really take them that seriously. I will say that Republicans have definitely been the more egregious, but I mean, probably the last president who really took deficits seriously was what, Herbert Hoover?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, because he thought that was the way to cure the Great Depression, that you had to
Oh,
keep down the deficit.
Oh no, I'm sorry. There was Bill Clinton, but
Right.
I've also heard that might have been a load as well. So I guess there we go. Bill Clinton and Herbert Hoover.
I mean, I
There's
think
your last.
I think with Bill Clinton, it was an excuse for him to do conservative shit. We have to worry about the deficit.
Yeah, I want to leave you with one thing. The 1996 election, people don't talk about it at all, which I don't blame them. But there's a few interesting things about that election, really. One of them was people don't know, but Bob Dole overperformed.
Really?
The polling was awful. Bob Dole was supposed to be smashed to pieces completely. They were projecting like some 1988 level stuff. All right. And it didn't happen. And I found out that's actually one of the things that really pushed Fox News at the time because Fox News had only just come out and they were saying, look, your liberal media lied to you and depressed conservative turnout. And it should be remembered the 1996 election is the only election outside of like a World War II thing where less than half of the electorate showed up.
Yeah.
Even even our historic election with Obama versus McCain, only 60% showed up. You
Yeah.
um,
I guess
and I mean,
I guess by that point, I was shocked by how many people were still enthused for Obama. Or no, excuse me, you're talking about McCain 2008. I thought you were talking about 2012.
yeah,
Sorry. Yeah, never mind.
I still had some hopes. I'll tell
Yeah.
you what, though. I know people say like, "Oh, well, that's because voting's not a holiday," and I'm like, "Hey, I'm in Louisiana. We vote on a Saturday, and guess what? Our voter turnout's lower than average." And I know being on a Saturday helps turnout. I know that making it a holiday would help turnout. However, you also have to give people a reason to actually want to go to the polling place. I mean, a lot of people don't go at all. They don't care. They don't follow the issues, or they rightfully understand that these people really don't give a shit about them, and they don't want to like put up with the hassle. They'd rather be at home watching Pornhub or Tiger King, or something more interesting in many ways.
Yeah.
Or George
Not
Carlin
there's
famously,
yeah, not there's
I
anything
don't.
wrong with watching porn or Tiger King, but
I
yeah.
like what George Carlin said about that, man. He was
Yeah.
like, I don't vote. You know what I do? I jerk off. Only when I'm done, I've got something to show for it. yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember I had a one of the professors I was forced to work with at Kentucky would always say that politicians should have the decency to provide whiskey at elections, that they should stand outside the polling places and hand out shots.
yeah, like the old days, like the Gilded Age, especially the antebellum
Yeah.
period.
Well, he actually didn't
Nope.
know that was a thing because I think I mentioned that and he was puzzled. He's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, that actually used to be a thing."
No, one you don't want to go to though, because a few lefties kind of threw this one out in the threw this one out there, and I was like, "What an idiotic idea!" Is no longer private voting but public. You know, and I was like, "Wow, that's I've read about the way public voting worked in the colonial period. That is some shady, shady stuff, man. I mean, like, the guy you're voting for or against. I mean, they've got their buddies there. There's a
Yeah.
social pressure. There's trying to make sure that all your supporters are there first, so that everybody behind them goes like, well, gee, I mean, if Washington's going to win, why would I vote for Madison, right? I mean, I'll look like an asshole.
Yeah,
So
exactly. No, I'm 100% in favor of the Australian ballot. Not to mention that it would be a way to do intimidation tactics, especially on people who have employees or well, especially large companies. That would be an awful system. Um,
yeah, I wanted to leave you with one other thought about the 1996 election. At the time, everybody was like, "Isn't Clinton a genius for triangulating?" And I'm like, they didn't even retake the House.
yeah,
I mean, honestly, Newt Gingrich had the best take on that. What happened with that? He said Newt Gingrich was like, he got into his fight with Clinton. He said the media was like, "Well, Clinton beat me," and Newt Gingrich is like, "What do you mean? I made him sign off on most of what I wanted, and we kept the House anyway." He's like, "I know we lost the presidency, but he's like, yeah, he's like, only idiot thought Bob Dole was going to win." you know.
yeah.
So,
No, Newt Gingrich, because I know like the narrative is that Bill Clinton trashed him after Newt Gingrich took over, and that Bill Clinton outmaneuvered him and used his charm. But most of what Bill Clinton accomplished, quote unquote accomplished as president, was basically a Republican agenda.
yeah, yeah. that whole narrative, and yeah, I mean, whatever my problems are with Newt Gingrich, that was a very influential and effective politician who got a lot of his agenda passed. Now
No,
that said,
that being
he wasn't
said,
speaker. He
the
wasn't speaker for long though. The guy was like a shooting star, which would make sense though. He was a loud, brash, aggressive man.
he
You can
still
only
is
survive so
too.
long. Oh yeah, yeah. I just mean like I remember him being on the scene, and you just. I mean, mind you, I was very young, but my dad was into politics. I'd see stuff on TV. My grandpa would have C-SPAN on. I remember Newt being in there and me thinking, this guy's different. You know, like I can remember Bob Dole and the guys who were there before him, and they were much more restrained. You got Newt in there, and you could just see that things were different. That politics was becoming more brash and crass, and the same thing with Bill Clinton in a lot of ways too. You know,
Yeah, that
um,
being said about Nude, I remember in 2012. You remember when he came out? His campaign theme, at least at a few events, was Hulk Hogan's theme song "I'm a Real American." And
yes, I do.
he was coming out. He's like kind of old and stiff, but he still had like this wrestling music. And then he was talking about building a goddamn moon base. I mean, I have on a certain level, especially when you hear about the story where he cheated on his wife with cancer and then gave her divorce papers when she's in the hospital so he can go be with someone younger. Um, he's obviously a horrible person, but on a certain level, you do have to respect the balls on this guy. I mean, this guy's balls are made of brass. He has no respect for other humans, and he's the perfect self-serving machine
Yeah.
with no
Oh, by the way,
self-awareness at all.
fun fact: history PhD student.
Oh, I know.
Doc,
I'm painfully aware of the fact that he is a PhD student, or actually PhD graduate.
yeah, PhD graduate of Tulane University. I mean, like, I assume his doctorate's probably been rented out a whole bunch. I kind of want to read it now, and I'm curious what he wrote about.
I mean, I've heard that it is thin and not very good, but it did pass, just like Shaq's PhD thesis.
Yeah, yeah, thin and not very good.
Well, yeah,
Huh?
also, I mean, Shaq's not a smart guy, and he also supports some terrible people, but at least when he supports terrible people, he does so on the DL, like when he backed Chris Christie.
Yeah, well, we get into basketball though. I mean, I was more of a Shaq guy than a Kobe guy, but
I was
that's
a Kobe guy. I never was able to get into Shaq. He's just too physically dominant. Same reason I've never been a LeBron guy. And if you're gifted that much athletically, it's not even a goddamn contest. It's like playing against children.
yeah. I guess, man. I don't know. I was the opposite. I was like the big guys.
No, I mean I've always preferred the skill players. I mean, I remember I used to watch Jordan, and I also really love Pippen though because Pippen's underrated. Definitely, I would say easily the best perimeter defender ever.
Yeah. You know basketball better than I do. And I mean, like when I say like the big guys, I mean not just the big guys, but I don't know. There was something about Shaq.
No, no, I
I like
love my favorite Shaq though is Orlando Shaq before he learned to speak in complete sentences. Because when he get pissed off, what he do is he'd be like, uh, "Shaq score a lot of points. Game is this: Shaq low post, get the ball to Shaq. Shaq done dunk it. Nothing you can do about it. That's the game. It's a game of basketball. It's good basketball. Got to play good basketball."
I love that shit. I love that.
No, that was Shaq. But then he learned how to speak, and and he was still great. I mean, because he was physically dominant. I remember he would just like other big dudes would normally dominate. He would just shake their asses off of him literally like they were water on a dog who's been out in the rain. Then he'd dunk it. And some of the things he would do, I'm like, God damn it, this is not fair. I mean, this is like when your dad decides to teach you a lesson in basketball, and when you're 9 or 10 or whatever, it's not even fucking fair. Because I mean, how stop somebody who's literally several times stronger than you are?
Here I was. I thought you were gonna say your favorite Shaq moment was Shaq Fu.
Well, I mean, obviously that's one of the greatest video games of all time. But that was just his digital image, so that's not quite it. But Kazam, now that was a cinematic masterpiece.
Oh yeah, that and Blue Chips.
Now,
Um,
Kazam, easily one of the top 10 movies of the 90s. I don't think there's any real debate about that among film historians.
Oh, film historians, I see, huh?
Yes, I've consulted them. Actually, I do know one person who's a pop culture wizard. I need to get him on here at some point because he could probably ramble off about 20 videos easily without effort. But
That'd be great, man. That'd be great.
yeah,
All right, man. I'm gonna have to call it quits. I got a very full day ahead of me tomorrow.
all
But
right.
thanks for having me on again, man. Just to ramble on and talk about a few political things, you know.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on, and definitely appreciate you coming in here to share your insights into the state of the left at the moment, which of course is in flux and difficult to gauge at best.
I'll say one very final thing about that. What I'm noticing is, besides Sanders' disappointment, um, given the Sanders Warren feud and that the identity politics was used, there's some bitter feelings about that right now. And where that goes and what happens with it, I don't know exactly. But I know the Democratic Party has certain strengths and demographics and financially strong, but I just have very bad feelings about their future. I especially get that every time I hear that demographics thing. I don't know. I hear demographics and I think the Titanic's not supposed to sink. You know what I mean?
Yeah, speaking of
Britain's supposed
Warren,
to win the American Revolution, right?
my other big regret, and I feel like this happens every time I make a politics video, every time I think about it as I'm uploading it, I always think, fuck, I forgot to say X. The thing I forgot to say in my last video, the Warren Democrats that Elizabeth Warren is starting, I think this, beyond anything else that she's done, proves that her fundamental purpose in politics right now is to divide the left. Because she's founded her own group. And her own group is focused around her person. And it implies identity. Warren Democrats, people who supported her during the primary of 2020. Clearly, her purpose in politics at this point is to divide the left. She is an establishment plant. I think that there's no real other way to look at it at this juncture. It's it's obvious.
I don't know if I'd say establishment plant, but her actions in the year 2020 have not been encouraging.
No, I mean the only way she could redeem herself is to go back to being the Warren who actually came up with plans, took stands, does stuff, stands up against the powers that be in a meaningful way, and does that for at least a few years. But I don't see that happening. If Biden gets elected, I mean, there are people now. I saw some videos today about how she's one of the main people in consideration. Like I said, I don't see that happening. But
Oh yeah, no way in hell. I'll be on record right now. Elizabeth Warren will not be chosen.
okay,
100%.
yeah, because I saw a bunch of that stuff today, and I'm like, yeah, I don't see that happening. That being said, if it does happen, I guess that's better than Hillary. So
Or actually, now I think about it, though, if it does happen, then I'm guessing then maybe your plant theory was right.
yeah, I mean, because I can't imagine that the establishment trusts her any more than the left does at this point. Elizabeth Warren is a woman without a country. She is basically the star of her own Alfred Hitchcock movie, and I don't see where she goes from here. She'll probably just stay around the Senate and largely be a memory of people who wanted a woman president. And 20 years from now, the only thing people will remember is, man, we were so close with Warren before she embraced identity politics and fucked up her own campaign.
That's funny, man. All right, man. Have a good night. All right.
All right, you too. All right, peace out.
Later.
Later.